Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for that crazy episode of The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 4. Alright, so I like to start off this review. Of course, we'll get into a recap, rating, favorite character, and then some more of my thoughts of the episode. But I like to start this one off with the ending because that's what everybody is going to be talking about after this episode. In my opinion, I thought the beginning of the episode, or maybe even the 2/3 of the episode, was not very strong, but I thought the ending really brought it up and actually made this episode quite formidable. So, anyways, let me know what you guys think of, especially of this ending and what we're going to see next week, and also this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And also, if you like this review, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Really would appreciate it. So, anyways, this ending is insane. So, of course, spoilers for this episode, but everybody's talking about this by now, right? It was on last night. So we get Rick is riding on the horse then, right, that we see him get on to lead the herd away, and just as he comes to the end of the road, he sees the other herd that we saw, or that we heard mentioned at the very beginning of the episode with Eugene. And it's a moment of, oh my god, right? And this is such a reminiscent moment, or a nostalgic moment of Glenn being kind of that feeling of total trap, like you're just totally trapped, totally doomed, right? In Thank You, Season 6, Episode 3 with Glenn and the whole dumpster thing. And this is really reminiscent of that, just that feeling of just total doom, like no way out of this at all. And these two herds are just converging on Rick. And then what makes it even worse is this horse bucks him off then, and he falls on this spike, or this like bar, this construction bar that's there on that cement block. And it goes right through his chest, or right through his lower abdomen, and he is just squeals in pain, of course, at this. And this whole time, these two herds, massive herds, are converging and, getting closer and closer to him. The suspense is building, and then it is the end of the episode, and Rick passes out. And I'm not sure why people thought he died in that moment. I really did not even think about that for a second. I think it's clear that he just passed out, and because of the pain, obviously, and then, he'll come to in a little bit. So, anyways, couple things here, right? They're paying homage to Daryl back in, I think it was season 2 or season 3, that episode named Chupacabra, with Daryl getting punctured by his own arrow in pretty much the exact same spot as Rick, actually, and also reminiscing about the pilot where Rick got bucked off the horse and then trapped and got into that tank, and then we get Glenn's line, hey you dumbass in the tank, right, whatever, so we get that line. And some really great stuff here, right? Some really great nostalgic moments that they're kind of throwing in, paying homage to these earlier events. And if you can catch it and really appreciate what's going on, I think it's even more enjoyable, more entertaining. So it's crazy, right? So the herds are converging upon him, and we don't know what is going to happen until next episode. Unfortunately, with AMC Premiere now, a lot of this stuff has been kind of leaked, and they're showing a lot of promos and a lot of stuff like that. So a lot of people have now figured out that it looks like he is going to survive. I don't really want to get into that, but if you want to go and watch those things, you can. I'm trying to stay away from it because I really want to see this next episode. So anyways, now let's get to the beginning of the episode and then go through with it in the rest. But that ending was insane. It was a little unexpected, even though we know Rick's final episode is next episode in episode 5. It was unexpected for me. I expected maybe something, a little cliffhanger, but not something like this. So this was insane, and again, we'll have to see what happens next episode. Crazy stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about that now when I get to my rating. Alright, so quickly here at the very beginning of the episode, we get Rick talking to Carol, and it essentially just starts this theme of everybody kind of turning against Rick, or the tables turning against Rick here. really the only one who truly is still supporting him is Michonne, and she's back at Alexandria, right? So no one at this camp is really on his side about what he's trying to build here. And Carol is the newest member to kind of be against him, right? And she says that she's leaving too, and that she's going back to the kingdom, not the sanctuary. So she's given up on them, and she says that she wants to let the saviors fend for themselves at the sanctuary and let them do what they want to do, right? And she says it's up to them to figure out who they want to be. And she says, I'm sorry, Rick, I really wanted it to work. And we get a nice moment here, actually, between Rick and Carol. A little bit of kind of bonding moment as Rick doesn't necessarily agree with her, but at least he understands her and respects her decision, I think, to leave and not be involved in all this stuff. And unfortunately, she does get involved later in the episode, even before she could even leave. So anyways, but that is, again, just that start of the theme. And then next, we get Jerry. So he's riding to Rick on his horse to tell him that Maggie has left the hilltop and is traveling to Alexandria, which this is huge because in a year and a half, I still don't agree with that time jump, a year and a half has passed, she hasn't visited Alexandria yet, so obviously her going now means something bad is going to happen, and Rick realizes it right away, what she could be doing at least, or what she probably is planning to do, right, and that is to kill Negan, or at least, somehow talk to him or torture him or something like that, right? Instead of kind of, leaving it be. And so obviously then he radios to the Oceanside girl to relay the message to those at Alexandria to make sure that Maggie cannot get in and prevent this from happening. But the Oceanside girl we see doesn't even relay the message because she is believing in what Maggie is doing too. And as we know from last episode, Oceanside is totally against these saviors, and they are not, kind of down for this living together, everyone equal kind of thing going forward that Rick's trying to build. So, in that sense, right, Oceanside, that girl not relaying the message, and for that, again, just another thing of the tables completely turning against Rick, and nobody really listening to him at all, like I said, except for Michonne. So, really, really unfortunate for Rick, right? And then we get this scene with Daryl, and this was just so foreseeable, at least for me, in that he offers him a ride, right? And I'm like, oh, don't get on the motorcycle, Rick, right? Don't get on the motorcycle. But he does. But I'll give it to Rick. He does quickly realize what Daryl is trying to do, as Daryl, directly just passes the way to Alexandria, right? And trying to divert Rick and let Maggie have enough time to go there and at least harm or maybe kill Negan, right? So anyways, of course, Rick not happy with Daryl. Daryl pulls it over, and then they get actually a very confrontational kind of argument here, and Daryl is honest with him, tells him about the relay, how it's not going to go through, right? And Rick is fed up, right? Because Daryl was, his brother, right? Like his friend, and now Maggie and Daryl and everyone really is against Rick right now. So in this little kind of scuffle, the two actually shove each other, or I guess, Rick shoves Daryl down this hill, and they actually fall into this large mud pit. And it's like the most unfortunate circumstance ever, right? For them just to be pushing, and then all of a sudden they fall down this cliff and into this pit, which is a very dangerous spot, as we see. So then we get maybe one of the best scenes. I thought last week's scene was very good with Rick and Daryl. This one maybe even better. This was awesome. So we get Daryl and Rick alone in the mud pit, and they have it out about just about everything. Just about everything that wasn't addressed in Season 8, that wasn't addressed in Season 7. Everything, pretty much, came out in this scene, and I thought it was really well done. So Daryl tells him about Oceanside, the truth about how Oceanside was the one who killed the saviors, and then we get into a little bit of stuff about Carl, and Daryl also talks a little bit about Glenn, too, right, and saying, you think this is what Glenn would want, and, you gotta understand where Maggie's coming from, right? Because Glenn got killed by this guy, right? And, it's totally different for her than it is for us. And then Rick makes a point in saying, if Negan is killed, Carl died for nothing, right? Carl died to preserve this world as he envisioned this type of world for them and for Rick, right? And Rick makes that point, but Daryl counters with this. He says he's gotta let him go, that he's chasing something for him that's just not meant to be. So he's saying, it's good that you're chasing it for Carl, and it's good to give Carl's death meaning. But it can't be that way, right? It just can't be that way in this world. Negan has to die, right? And then we see get a really good a little line here from Rick, and he says, "I never asked anyone to follow me." I really like that quote because it's so true. At no point, really ever, I mean, maybe when you get to the prison a little bit, he kind of starts asserting that leadership, but you never really saw any point where he specifically told people, follow me, right? I'm going to lead you guys. So really like that line. And then Daryl says, maybe you should have. So really great stuff there. Anyways, you could go in depth to that scene, but what an amazing scene there. The two of them, two men alone, and both of them almost in tears by the end of this conversation about Carl, about Glenn, about the ones that have passed. And really crazy. So you understand where Rick's coming from. I completely do. And you understand where Daryl's coming from and being on Maggie's side too. So it's tough. It's really tough in this situation. So we get a little bit of break from that action, and we see Negan and Michonne, and that was kind of a subplot for this episode, if you will. Negan, I really like Negan in this scene. He's just kind of funny, especially towards the end. But anyway, so he's discussing basically her son who died very early on in the apocalypse, Andre, and Negan's wife, and he's talking about how both of those people would have made them weaker in this world, and saying maybe it's better that they didn't, that they aren't here because they are stronger because of it. And I see maybe he has a point here, but of course this gets to Michonne. I mean, Negan is just trying to, make up conversation. I generally don't think he's trying to piss her off. I think he's actually trying to make a valid point. But obviously, he knows that it's going to aggravate her a little bit. And of course it does. And Michonne just loses it all of a sudden. Throws his food on the floor, of course, because he's on this hunger strike. And throws his food on the floor and just, leaves. Right? She's done with it. Right? She's had it. So anyways, then later on in the episode, she comes back with a little bit more food. She's kind of calmed down a little bit. And realizing that Negan's just trying to get to her head. Right? And if she lets him kind of win, that's not the right thing to do, right? You got to go back, give him the food, and act in a calm manner to show that he hasn't gotten to you yet, right? And then Negan asks her to get his bat back, or at least just to see it, right? And he says, anything is worth something, when you have nothing, or something like that along the lines. And he really wants to see this bat, right? As well, it symbolizes his wife, right? So that's true. And Michonne, I love the way she responds, and she says, we left it out there. We don't know where it even is, right? And this really gets to Negan. Now, Negan knows how to get to her, but she knows just how to get to Negan too. And that it's the only thing he has left, and now it's just out there in the field. And Negan is just torn apart by this. And I think this is totally genuine. He begins to bash his head against the wall even, because he can't see his bat, or at least he knows that the bat may even be gone for good. So this is huge, and of course Michonne knowing exactly where to strike those kind of pressure points for Negan. So very upsetting scene for Negan there. Then we transition here to the junkyard where Anne has Gabriel tied up and is going to let a walker bite Gabriel as a form of payment to get into the group. He's kind of like the admission into this other group. And this is what an A or a B meant, right? In that, if a person was just bitten, maybe they're an A, or if, they're just turning, that's a B, something like that. But we do know that this group is interested in that and wants these kind of people. And so then, we see that Gabriel actually talks her out of it, saying that he forgives her, and this actually ends up working, right? And this ends up working, talking her out of it, and so that she doesn't go through with having the walker bite Gabriel in the end, and he actually is saved, right? Saves his own life pretty much. But this doesn't solve the overarching issue in that she then puts him out with a handkerchief on his mouth. I'm guessing it's some kind of chemical that puts him out unconscious, and so that she can leave without him. So essentially, she saves him, even though she's now leaving and going to this group anyways. And how is she going to get into this group without an A or a B, right? So that's another question too. Maybe is she going after somebody else, Rick Grimes. Who knows, right? Who knows? But anyways, so then we see later, of course, he wakes up in the storage container, and Anne, or Jadis, is gone, nowhere to be seen, but she does leave him a note saying that she is going away, and she's going away fast, right? Which means alone, and she just wants to be gone. She doesn't want to be involved in anything like this anymore, and she just wants to be with this new group. So anyways, of course, this kind of gets to Gabriel, as they've just developed a relationship, and now it's cut off, and now Anne or Jadis, whichever, is now gone. So a little bit of subplot there, and I think that's going to be a huge part in Rick's departure coming next episode, but we'll have to see. Then we get Jed and the other saviors showing up at the camp while Rick is gone, obviously taking advantage of that fact, right? And so now we know they have found out too about Oceanside, and they were the ones responsible for killing the saviors, and are now waging a war against Oceanside and the rest of the survivors, or at least just Oceanside at the point in time, but they're kind of part of that overarching group of survivors. So an enemy against one of us is all of us. That sort of philosophy is definitely being practiced. So anyways, they arrive. Jed has a stolen gun that he got off of Alden, I guess. And he basically is there. The rest of the saviors are there to take all the other guns from the camp, from Carol and the rest of the people who are then traveling back to the kingdom with the rest of the firearms, right? And so then we see that Carol actually subdues Jed. Then, right after he gets her to stand down, then she subdues him, of course, right? She's a badass, right? And then all hell breaks loose. We hear gunfire and tons of commotion. And then we kind of transition right to Rick and Daryl in that pit again. And then we see them working together then to get out of that hole and climb out. And so we never actually see the aftermath of this kind of battle, or this little mini, mini action or mini fight that's happening right now at the camp. So I don't know if we'll even see that in next episode. Probably episode 6 we'll probably see that, and we'll see how it plays out. Or maybe it's just a little bit over exaggerated and they'll get it sorted out pretty fast. Either way, it creates a lot of commotion and also gets or attracts the herd right to them, which is pretty stupid, right? Pretty damn stupid. So anyways, really great scene there where Daryl and Rick get out of that hole. Some really intense scenes there. Really didn't think that there was a chance either of them fell down and got eaten, but it was still very intense and really built up that suspense in that scene. So that was great as well. Then we see the herd starts coming right from that noise, and right when Daryl and Rick get out of the mud pit, they see all these walkers, this huge herd right away, right? And then we see, of course, some of them start falling into the pit while they're trying to get out, and they're forced to climb up the side, holding onto the roots. Again, that was really great, really suspenseful, right? And I love the point where it was like, knowing if they fall, they're dead, right? And I really did a nice job of showing, putting kind of the camera angle from below and showing them up there, and then showing the walkers down there, and showing what would happen if they fell. Right, so really great building suspense. So Rick gets up first, helps Daryl out, and he says, grab my hand, brother. Again, paying homage to some earlier elements of the show. Really great, amazing stuff there with Shane as well. And anyway, so then they find the horse that I guess was left by one of the kingdom members, I'm going to say. I'm not sure, but anyways, they find this horse that's on the trail there and is about to get attacked by these walkers. And Rick actually makes the decision, and he says he is going to stay to lead the herd away from the camp, as he still believes in this. He still believes in Carl's way and this way of getting all together. And if the camp is destroyed and the walkers come, that obviously dampens the mood and obviously would ruin all those plans that he set out, especially for this bridge. And so he makes the decision that he's going to lead this herd out for the betterment of the group. Daryl, of course, disagrees, but Rick is not, and so he disagrees, but Rick, he's made his mind. He's made his mind up, and he decides that he's going to do it. Sorry, what I was trying to get there is, Rick is not willing to take them to the bridge, and that's what Daryl is disagreeing with him with. But he's also just disagreeing that he should be responsible to lead this herd away, right? And so anyway, so Rick says he's not taking them to the bridge. That's not going to happen. And so for this, he's going to lead them away, like far away, and because of that, Daryl is going to go a separate way, and Rick's going to go a separate way. So making this whole situation at the end kind of coming to a point, of course. And then we hear the lines. Daryl says, "Be safe," and Rick says, "You too." Maybe the last line that Daryl will ever speak to Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead. Think about that one. Insane. Insane. And you could tell even Daryl's voice in that line, he knew. He even knew maybe there was a possibility that may have been the last time he talked to Rick. So, anyways, crazy stuff, and really begging the question, is this the end of Rick? And then, of course, we see that scene at the end of the episode. Not looking good for Rick. So, anyways, guys, that's it for the recap. Let's get on to the rating. Alright, so in terms of rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. I think that this is the lowest rating I've given the episode so far. And I don't know, I felt like this one, outside of the ending, I felt the first 2/3 of the episode were really not that strong, but I thought the ending, of course, was really great. The scenes with Daryl and Rick, and the whole kind of aftermath with Rick. I thought all of that stuff was really impactful, really intense, of course. But some of the other stuff was just, it just wasn't as strong. So I really felt like this one was a bridge episode. And I think a really great phrase in kind of summarizing what happened is everything happened, but nothing really happened, right? And some examples of this are, right, we see Jed and the other Saviors, Carol subdues them, then this kind of fight breaks out, but we don't actually see the fight, right? We just see the start of it, and then we see, of course, Maggie riding to Alexandria, but she never actually gets there in this episode, right? And then we see, of course, even the ending, Rick, right, getting bucked off the horse and being there. We don't see the aftermath. So this episode did a lot of stuff where it kind of set up a lot of things, but it didn't actually give us a payoff or an aftermath of those things. So in that case, I really think it's kind of getting, the story here from point A to point B and kind of being that bridge instead of actually just, showing us what has been happening or what is going to happen. So anyways, though, I think it does a great job in setting up some great things, of course, with that ending with Rick as well for next episode. So anyways, in my opinion, I didn't think it was the best episode. I thought it was maybe the worst, maybe this in the premiere, maybe kind of competing. I thought for sure last episode was better. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Let me know what your thoughts are for sure. But anyways, the biggest question coming out of this ending is, will Rick survive, right? Is he going to die? Is he going to survive? We know it's his last episode. So, everything comes to a head in this one. So, anyways, the promos for next episode look intense. They look insane. Rick's final episode. And it looks like the most of the runtime is going to be focused on these flashbacks and hallucinations. And then, of course, we'll see the resolution of the situation at hand and see what happens to Rick and how he's departing the show. So, anyways, it's going to be insane. I think it's going to be sad. I think it's going to be really intense at times. Going to be nostalgic for sure. We're expecting some John Bernthal cameo, Sonequa Martin Green cameo, a Scott Wilson cameo, which is very emotional because, of course, he passed away a couple weeks ago. So that's going to be crazy to see him on screen. So anyways, I think it's going to be really a sad episode, but I think it's going to be one of the best episodes of The Walking Dead ever. So anyways, really look forward to next week's episode. You cannot miss it. I think it's going to be huge. Going to have a quick thoughts or reaction video up hopefully right after it airs, and then going to have my review up as well. So stay tuned for those for sure. Anyways, my favorite character for this one is going to be Michonne, played by Denai Guerrera. Really great role in this episode, showing her kind of fight against her becoming weak. That's been an ongoing theme in the show for a long time, ever since they got to Alexandria, of her, living this life, caring for Judith and, going through the gardens and helping the community. But then at night, she goes out with her katana and is killing all these walkers. So a really great, kind of showing that, and a really great start to the episode in that, in those scenes as well. So anyways, Denai Guerrera's doing a hell of a job as always. And again, we'll have to see how Michonne is affected by Rick's departure. This is going to be insane for her. Maybe the most impact any character will have in the show from Rick being gone is her. And it's going to be crazy. There's a lot of stuff about her being pregnant now with Rick's baby. So we'll have to see all that stuff, but it's going to be insane. So anyways, she is my favorite character for this one. Obviously, I wasn't going to pick Rick because I know he's going to be next week's So it is what it is. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this review. I hope to see you guys next week. Tune into the episode. It's going to be insane. I think everyone's going to be talking about it. It's going to be crazy. So anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching this one. Can't wait for next week's episode. It's going to be special. I'll have my review up for that. So thank you so much for your support on the channel. Always appreciate it. Really great stuff lately. So anyways, thank you so much. And we'll see you next week for Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 5, Rick's final episode.